Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic, where I mentioned in a video earlier this week that nickly.com, which is a website that I've been a member of now for many years, is unfortunately closing down. It's a Japanese website where they specialise in pencil puzzles, and this means that all of the puzzles are hand created. So you can see the puzzle on screen here is by Oku-Yama, who he produced about one puzzle a month for the site, and about one every 6 months in the Sudoku genre. And this might be my favourite Sudoku of all time. It has just such a beautiful initial logical pattern to it, such a structured solve. And I'm going to show it to you now and show you how to solve it. But what I think, in order to really appreciate what's going on, I'd really recommend that you either pause the video or actually just jot down this pattern on a piece of paper and try and solve it and see if you can see how to make progress, because it really is quite something special. Now, this puzzle appeared, I think, back in 2016, so it's quite an old puzzle. And luckily, Nickly has saved some of its favourite puzzles of all time on the site, so these are still available. So without further ado, let's step through it. So how would we start? Well, we can see that there's a relatively easy start here. We have a 5 and a 5, so we can place a 5 here, I think. I'm not sure if that's what yeah, this solve does. So we're working through what's considered to be a very good logical solve of the puzzle. It demonstrates some of the things that I want to show you. And you can see exactly the same things happening here with the 6s. So should be able to place a 6 here. And now the next piece of logic is difficult to spot. So again, definitely recommend a pause here. I will tell you, for those of you who are interested, that what you need to be considering now is, off the back of what we've just done with the 5s and 6s, you need to be considering where you can place 5s and 6s in particular rows and columns. And you are looking for an Xwing pattern. In fact, 2 Xwings on 5s and 6s. So have a stare at the grid and see if you can see where those Xwings might fall. And I'll show you now what you need to think about in order to make progress. So you can see these 5s here are representing the only positions in columns 2 and columns 8 where 5s can go. And now let's think about 6s. Where can 6s go in columns 2 and columns 8? And you can see there's a beautiful symmetry to where 6s can go, in the sense that they can sort of take these positions in rows 1 and rows 5. So we end up with 2 Xwings on 5s and 6s in this symmetrical pattern. And one of the interesting things about this arrangement, if you ever do come across it, is that this cell here and this cell here actually have to be a 5-6 pair. And you can see that because let's imagine how this Xwing might unwind itself. So let's just pick a number. Let's say that this cell here was a 5. What would the effect of that be? Well, if this cell is a 5, then this cell is going to have to be a 5. But if this cell is a 5, then this cell will be a 6. And therefore there cannot be a 6 here, so this cell would be the only other cell in column 2 that could contain a 6. So the effect there, if this was a 5, was to force a 6 into this position. Now, if this isn't a 5, let's imagine this is a 5 instead. What would happen then? Well, in that case, this will be a 5, this will be forced to be a 6, this therefore can't be a 6, so this will be a 6. So either way round, whichever way we do it, we end up with a 5 and a 6 in exactly these 2 positions. Now that is quite profoundly important because, for example, let's take a look at the 8 here. It's no longer possible for this cell to contain an 8. So in effect we can delete the outside cells of the Xwing. We now know this is a 5-6 pair. Yes, and there we can place, you can see the 8s. The 8s can no longer be here, so the 8s are in one of these 2 positions. And that's going to allow an 8 to be placed in one of these two positions. Similarly, you can see pencil marked 8s here, just as a result of this 8 and this 8 interacting. And then this is a lovely spot. And so let's work out how this has been derived. You can see the effect of this 8 and these two 8s is that there will be an 8 either here or here. And the effect of this 8 here is that there will be an 8 either here or here. So you can see now that in rows 1 and rows 3, you've got this sort of Xwing pattern of 8s, in the sense that if this is an 8, this will be an 8, and if this is an 8, this will be an 8. Either way, there can be no more 8s in rows 1 and 3, and therefore the solver here has pencil marked 8s into one of these two positions in this 3x3 block, which is lovely, because then look at the interaction with this block. You're going to get the same. We don't know where the 8s go here, but we know they must be in columns 7 and columns 9, i.e. they must fall in exactly the same columns that these two 8s do. So what is the effect of that on this 3x3 block now? In this 3x3 block, the 8s can no longer appear in columns 7 and columns 9, so they must appear in columns 8. And look, this cell here cannot contain an 8 because of this 8 here, so in fact there is going to be an 8 here, and there it goes in. So this pattern of Xwings leads to this beautiful arrangement of 8s around the grid, and that then flows into another beautiful piece of setting here. So you can see that what the solver has spotted is there's an interaction here between the 2 and the 3 in column 8, and this 2 and a 3 in row 2, and this 2 and a 3 in row 8. In other words, where can we now place a 2 and a 3 in column 7? Well, there's only two places left, here and here. So in fact, this Xwing could unwind at this point. The fact that, if you remember, we had a 5 here, 5 here, and a 5 here, and a 5 here. So the fact that this is now an 8 actually allows us to place a 5 into this cell, because there's no other place a 5 can go in column 8 here. In fact, the set, and now the Xwing is being unwound. You can see that happening there. Should allow the 6 to be placed up here similarly. This 6 being placed here allows this 6 to be found here, just because simple Sudoku rules. You can see we have a 6, a 6, a 6, and a 6. So that forces the 6 over here, and then a 5 here. And now a few numbers go in just naturally, so there's nothing particularly brilliant going on here. I just want to show you one more point, and it's here. We reach this point of the solve, and now, and this has all been set up by hand, which I think is one of the most beautiful things about this sort of puzzle. So the setter has deliberately designed the puzzle so that you arrive at this point, and you can see you've got these open cells here, this sort of square pattern of open cells around the grid, and a 9 can be placed in these cells. Each of these positions could take a 9. So what does that mean? Well, that means we're going to have an Xwing on 9s that the solver is showing here. And what does that tell us? Well, what that tells us is that if we look, for example, at this 3x3 block, where can a 9 now go in this nonette? Well, because we have this Xwing and we know there will either be a 9 here or a 9 here, there can't be a 9 here or here. And that interacts with this 9 here, and I imagine the next cell that will go in will be a 9 here, and then there'll be a 9 here, etc. Yeah, it's a 9 here, 9 there, and then again the solve continues from there. So 2 or 3, I think, absolutely beautiful pieces of logic necessary to crack this puzzle. Those of you who did jot down the puzzle and did try it, I imagine will fully appreciate what we've just shown here. This really is quite something. Nickley's demise is a huge tragedy for the puzzle solving community, and I think, you know, I take pride in showing videos like this of these wonderful puzzles. So thank you for watching. If you enjoy the video, please do subscribe to the channel. We cover this sort of thing daily, and we'll be back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.